Hi, and welcome. Emily here, and welcome to Chair Yoga. Grab your chair, preferably one without sides, and set up to face me. I'll turn to the side just so you can see a little more easily. I don't really need anything else today. Always an option if you want any extra padding or things underneath your feet. We'll have an option to come standing, and you could always use the wall and stay seated instead, or just stay right where you are and modify and change things and do things differently than I'm telling you to. So, starting with our tall, comfortable seat, maybe you want a little roll for their ankles like I do, and then placing the ankles pretty much underneath the knees, but a comfortable place for you. Maybe the feet out hip distance apart, maybe they're in a little bit closer. See if you can take some of the rounding out of your low back. Tilt the pelvis just a little bit forward. So it's almost like the belly button's dipping a little forward towards the knees, and also lifting up the shoulders, coming right over the hips if that's possible. And the hands resting on the lap, and maybe you find somewhere to gaze at out in front of you, gaze soft. Maybe you let the eyes start to soften so they close. Maybe they flutter between the two, but start to become a little more still. Becoming a little more still so that you can pay more attention. Might take a little sigh. You might place one hand on your heart or your chest, maybe one hand on your low belly today. Take a moment here with the hands on the belly and on the chest, and notice the breath as you breathe in and breathe out. Maybe you're starting to make the breath just a little slower, a little longer. Nothing forceful here. So you could be continuing to breathe naturally with no changes. And do a quick check-in for yourself of how the body is feeling. Is there anything going on for you? Anything that needs a little extra care or attention or movement? Check from the toes all the way up to the head, down to the fingers. And then you might take the hand that's on your belly and bring it somewhere to rest on the forehead or maybe the side of the head. You could even take both hands to rest them on the temples. Maybe then the head rests slightly into the hands, and the hands are helping to hold the head up, one or both. With the hands here on the head, bring your attention to how the thoughts are. And that just means, is there a train of thoughts? Is there an overall quality of the thoughts, whether the thoughts feel a little foggy, a little bit jumbled, maybe very focused on one thing, maybe stuck on a storyline that is often running through your head? What is here for you? What connections are being made up in the brain? And in this time right now where We have a pandemic, we have fight for social justice, and so many other things going on in the world. There's lots of information that's coming at us from the outside, maybe lots of education. What things have been brought to your mind, to your awareness, maybe in the last hour or the last day or the last week? What are some of the facts, the stories, the learnings? And then see if you can start to walk the hands. Maybe they slide down the sides of the head, down the sides of the neck, and both hands come to rest at the heart center. One hand can stack on top of the other. With that physical sensation of the hands coming down from the head to the heart. Can you also let some of those facts, some of those learnings settle down into the heart? Integrate here. Whatever it is for you, can you let yourself be more aware of your emotional reaction to those thoughts, to that education, learning, whatever it might be? It might be something related to the pandemic, social justice, racial justice. And as we move the body and we stretch it, letting things settle into the body and settle into our emotions is part of what happens, whether you think about it or not. And today we're taking a moment to think about that process. It's a process of integrating, of connecting the physical, the mental, and emotional. And then when we go out into the world, it's a process of taking all of that integration and acting, acting from the heart. So I'll take another couple of breaths here with the hands on the heart. Maybe you almost lightly squeeze the fingers, giving yourself this little hug of encouragement, of strength. Maybe a light pressure to help things really imprint, to really sink into the body, the heart. And you can keep the eyes closed. We're going to find some stretches for the neck here. You can start to let the chin fall down into the chest. The hands could relax down into the lap. Maybe the forehead starts to drop a little further down towards the knees. There might be a slight rounding of the shoulders forward without coming into our fold. You might take a little sigh here. And then start to let the right ear fall over towards the right shoulder. You might lift the chin and the eyes so that the chin is no longer angled down into the chest. And you decide what angle feels right for the left side of the neck, You might decide that you want to release the hands down into the lap and really let the shoulders melt down away from the ears, the head. You might even take the left hand off to the side, reaching it at diagonal, the fingertips stretching down to the ground on the left side. Some people will like to take the right hand up and add a little bit of weight on the top of the head, not pulling down, but a little bit of extra weight to accentuate the stretch on the left side of the neck. And you could be pretty still. There might be a really tiny, small, gentle movement, almost like you're flossing some of the muscles, the connective tissue on the left side of the neck. Very gentle here. Eyes can stay closed. Mine are mostly closed. A little softening of the jaw, maybe with a smile, can help to release some of this tension too. Any sighs. If you add the right hand on top of the head, bring it back into the lap. Slowly let the left hand come into the lap and let the chin fold back down in towards the collarbone. Pause with the chin in the center of the chest again. Just checking in and noticing how the left shoulder, the left side of the neck, even up into the left temple feel. And then let the left ear start to roll towards the left shoulder, maybe picking the chin up a little bit and deciding what angle of the face away from the ground is the right stretch for you. Softening both shoulders down away from the ears. Maybe the right hand comes off the right side, right fingers reaching at a diagonal down towards the ground. Maybe the left hand finds its way on top of the head. A light pressure. With all of that, maybe a little flossing motion. Just the head moving, maybe an inch or two, or even less, still is also great. Couple breaths here on this side. And you might be doing something different depending on how the two sides of the neck are feeling today. Letting the left hand come back into the lap, the right as well. The chin comes back down towards the collarbone, rolls down into the center of the chest. Pause there for another breath or two. And then start to fold forward. So the hands might slide down the legs towards the knees, coming into a forward fold. So rounding the back, maybe the forearms rest on the thighs. You're a little curled in. Some people will have more space to start to slide the hands maybe down the legs towards the feet, maybe draping the arms all the way over the belly or the chest, resting on the thighs. Find somewhere that you're comfortable being for a couple of breaths. And you might let the left ear come towards the left shoulder in your fold. Let it gently come back through center, the right ear towards the right shoulder. And any pace, any movement side to side that's feeling good to continue to work some things out in the neck. You can feel a little like you're on like a skateboarding ramp, rolling up one side, little pause, and this roll back down through center, all the way over the other side. Get to a point where you feel like if you're moving the neck, it feels pretty even now. If the hands are draped pretty far down towards the ground, bring the hands up the legs, back to the lap. Use the hands to help press you up to sit, and the chin still tucked into the chest. Take one or both hands to the forehead to help bring the head up. That was a lot of stretching for the neck. So just pause there. Nice. And you can continue to keep the eyes closed as much as you want. We're going to do some flowing here, some different variations of turning the hands to get some mobility in the shoulders. So inhale with the palms facing up, reach out to the side, come up and overhead, and just pretty simple to start. The fingers touch, the palms of the hands touch, the hands coming down through the center line. We'll do a couple rounds like this. Inhale, the palms face up. Reach up overhead, the finger pads touch, the palms connect, and you come right down through the midline, down through the heart. Inhale, sweeping up. Maybe the gaze goes up, exhale, hands through the center. Once more, just like this, inhale, sweeping up, get really wide, reaching the fingers and then up overhead. Exhale, hands down through center. This time starting off the same. Inhale, the hands sweep out to the sides. And this time the finger pads touch, the palms face down, the elbows go really wide. It's like you're pressing, I don't know, it feels like a piston or something down out in front of you. And inhale, sweep the arms, get really nice and wide. Just a couple of the tips of the fingers meet and the palms face down as you push the air down towards your lap. Okay. Maybe this time as you do that, you interlace the fingers and push down. The elbows stay pretty high up and out wide to the sides. Nice. Couple more rounds like this. If you're interlacing the fingers, see if you can switch the interlace each time. A different finger comes on top. It'll feel a little unfamiliar. You can even get like really off center here with maybe even some fingers not participating, just to notice how that feels. It's these interesting little changes to do something slightly different, make a new little mental connection, then integrating that into the body. Nice. Okay. This time, as you reach the hands up and overhead, turn the thumbs to face you, to face the body, and then rotate the palms out and away. And then keep rotating the thumbs so the thumbs rotate away. The elbows will probably have to be bent as you start to bring the backs of the hands together. And now bring the backs of the hands pressed against each other down through the center line. So do a couple times like that. Inhale, sweeping the arms up. Thumbs point towards the body, palms out and away. Thumbs rotate all the way out. Back of the hands meet any amount. And the hands come down through the center. And it's probably pretty hard to get the pinky side of the back of the hands to touch. And that's part of the point. So really rotating all the way up into the shoulder socket, palms and thumbs out and away, back of the hands meet. Elbows can stay pretty elevated, helping to draw out either side and rotate. A couple more times just like this. Any point once you know kind of what we're doing with the hands and you want to soften the gaze or close the eyes again, please do that. Okay, one more time just like that. And then this time we're going to do the opposite. So as the hands sweep up and overhead, the thumbs start to go out to the sides, the palm faces your face, and then the pinky side will be a little easier to touch now. And it's probably really hard to bring the thumb side to touch, but see if you can encourage that rotation, hands coming down through the center. So inhale, sweeping the arms up, palms face your face. The thumbs continue to rotate out and away. The pinky side of the back of the hand matches, and you come down. Yeah. You might be like, what is going on? This feels different, feels more challenging, like didn't know I couldn't bring the back of my hands together. Maybe none of that's surprising to you, and that's great too. Just noticing what is coming up for you. What's your reaction to kind of this new information, this new weird movement? All right, I'll do one more time just like that, reaching up. The shoulders are probably getting a little almost fatigued now. So we'll give them a little wrap. So reach the arms up and overhead. Bring the left arm on top. We'll find our hug. You can hold the hands on the shoulders, let the elbows drop into the chest, and then round in any swing you want side to side. We've done this move before. This is our wrap. Oh, it might feel really good on the low back. You could let the ears roll from shoulder to shoulder again, especially if you're swaying. And press into the feet. Get a little taller, start to lift the elbows up and off of the chest. And you either stay there, really drawing the elbows away from the shoulders, starting to get a stretch here in the shoulders, or if you know where we're heading and you want to try the eagle wrap, the fingers point up towards the sky. The backs of the forearms start to press against each other, maybe the back of the hands, maybe you wrap the hands. Continuing to draw the elbows up the same height as the shoulder, about, and out away from the chest, and also dropping the shoulders down away from the ears. Couple breaths here, maybe the eyes closed once you've gotten your setup, or finding somewhere steady to gaze. Checking in that you're sitting up nice and tall, the natural curve in your low back. If you need to change the distance between the feet or move the ankles at all, always do that. If you had the wrap, start to let the hands release from each other, coming back to the shoulders, elbows down into the chest. Slide the hands down the arms. Inhale, reach up. And this time the right arm on top. So we'll head right into the other side. Hands find the shoulders, elbows drop into the chest. Start to round in. And add a sway if you'd like, side to side. Pausing back in the center, start to lift the spine up nice and tall. Find your natural curves, the low belly lifting up and almost pressing out towards your knees. The elbows start to lift to shoulder height. Draw the elbows away from the shoulders, stretching the outside of the shoulders. Stay there. Or maybe the fingers go up. Back of the forearms press, the fingers press into the palm of the hand. And maybe you decide you try that and then you'd rather have the hands on the shoulders. Great. Draw the elbows away from the chest. Lift them up. Soften the shoulders away from the ears. Steady gaze or eyes closed, a couple of breaths. If the hands are wrapped or the fingers are lifted, start to bring the hands back to the shoulders. The elbows drop down into the chest. Hands slide down the arms. So that's that nice little touch along the way. And the hands come back up to the height of the shoulders, whatever distance between the hand feels good. Thumbs point up, the palms face in towards each other, and start to wiggle the fingers a little. Maybe you're kind of making a fist and then flicking. Maybe it's this like cascade of the fingers folding in and then unfolding. Maybe you cross the thumb on top of each one. Just get a little movement and notice that some of that movement, actually, you can feel it up and into the elbow, even up further to the arm. All of these things are connected here in the body. Yeah, in your body. And then we'll do some rounds of our cat and cow here. So you can keep the hands right where they are and just reach the fingers forward as you start to draw the back away, really hugging the belly button into the spine. And then inhale, start to find that back bend. The hands might come up higher. They don't have to come all the way back up and over. Lift from the center of the heart, and then we'll start to move through. Exhale, round in. If it feels better to have the hands on the legs, you could have the hands on the legs. Inhale, sliding the hands up towards the hips as you draw the elbows back. Exhale, round in. Inhale, arching, opening, lifting the heart. Exhale, curl in. Another couple rounds like this. And then settle into the center whenever you feel complete. And we're going to find our stretches for the legs. So always an option as we're taking some of these stretches to actually try standing up, not maybe for this first part, but go ahead and hug the right knee up and into the chest. Give it a nice stretch up and in, continuing to lift the chest up and away from the chair. We're going to head right into our figure four stretch. You can maybe reach down and find the ankle across the left thigh. And the right hand might press lightly on the right leg, just lightly down, almost a little bit of a direction in the same direction from the hip all the way out through the knee, heading in this diagonal. So it's down, but it's also trying to find this length. Yeah. And you can stay right here. It can feel nice to shift the weight from one sit bone to the other. Can you be using your left hand on the seat of the chair for a little bit of support here? Make sure the jaw is soft. You might even move it around a little bit. Yeah, so a little different, this kind of rocking action, really moving the weight from seat to seat. And then you're always welcome, as we start to fold over the legs, if you want to turn this into a balancing, you're welcome to kind of hover off of the chair, experiment with that. But otherwise, staying right here, really lift your belly button towards your shin. Lift the crown of the head nice and tall, hands on the lap, and then starting to bring the heart down like the heart was trying to leap up and over this shin and get a little bit longer. And just like we did with the other forward fold, if you want to relax the forearms on the thighs, stay right here. If you'd like to drape over the legs, take any variation here of this fold. Maybe a big inhale through the nose, big breath out the mouth. Letting the chin fall into the chest. We're working our way from the neck, the shoulders, the heart opening down to the hips now. Down the spine. Checking in with the feet on toes on both feet. Are they loose? Could you give them a wiggle? If you're draping forward, start to walk the hands back up into the lap. We'll all come up to sit upright. And we're going to head into an eagle wrap. So start to slide the right leg to cross even more over the left. And that can be any amount, whatever's working for you. Some people might find the knees stacking pretty much one on top of each other. Maybe you start to hug the right foot in towards the left calf. Some people will have some space to wrap around. That's pretty hard, especially if you're seated. And again, if you want to be trying these poses standing, you could be starting to shift the weight into the left foot to hover and stand to find your rep here. Maybe you're continuing to stay seated. And the idea is we're really hugging the hips in, really squeezing the inner thighs together. And you can either stay right here and reach the arms out in front instead. And you're going to take your left arm on top and give yourself this little wrap here. Maybe you draw the elbows up away from the chest, just like we were doing with that eagle wrap. Drawing the elbows away from the shoulders. Continue to really squeeze the inner thighs together. It's this compression of the body hugging into the midline. Nice. Go ahead and start to let the elbows soften back into the chest. The hands slide down the arms. Hands find the front of the knee. Start to draw the knee back up and in, and take a couple of circles of the knee in one direction out to the side and the other direction. And then bring the right leg back down to the ground. Lift the ankles, lift the heels, spread the toes. You might give the one foot just a little roll and the other, especially if you're doing that balancing. And we're going to find that on the other side. So start to hug the left knee up and into the chest, just a pulse or two up and down. The right hand, a little support on the chair, and then your figure four shape, crossing the ankle somewhere over the thigh. And just start just that light pressure down, noticing right away if the two sides seem really different in terms of where the knee is. Maybe the knee's up a little higher on this side or a little lower, indicating the openness on this side. Checking in with what space you have here on this side, a light pressure down, and also the same direction from your hip all the way the thigh bone out to the knee. And then if you want to do that rocking from one sit bone to the other, maybe making it a little smaller or a little more pronounced on this side, just depending on how you feel. This side of my body today is definitely feeling like it needs to ease more into it. So I'm going to take it a little bit slower, a little bit more careful on this side. And as I notice what's happening in the hip, my jaw starts to constrict a little bit. So check in, see if you need to soften the jaw, soften the shoulders. It's that integration of the whole body, that awareness as one thing shifts and changes, as you learn one thing or experience one thing, something else happens. And we need to bring it all together. So go ahead and settle in one spot. Really sit up nice and tall. Press your foot down into the ground. Press your sit bones. Lift the heart up. Lift the belly button up and towards the shin as you start to try to imagine almost like it's the heart is trying to lift up over and tip over the legs. It's almost like a little jump. And you might pause here with the forearms on the leg, adding, of course, anything underneath this ankle if it feels like it's pretty bony or uncomfortable. Maybe you drape the hands down. Maybe you're trying this balancing either for some strength building here, or some people have the space to bring their hands down towards the ground to find a fold that way. We're going to take, I don't know, another 3 to 5 breaths, depending on your pace of breath, to fold over the legs here. Maybe a little sigh. Is the back of the neck still loose? If the hands are down towards the ground, sliding them back up, finding the legs, coming to sit up tall, and using the hands to help slide the left leg further on top, maybe stacking the left knee, maybe not. And then hugging the hips in towards each other, the inner thighs in towards each other, letting the left foot drop a little bit more down to the ground as you squeeze in. Maybe the calves are pressing into each other a little bit more. Maybe you want to experiment with starting to shift the weight forward into the right foot to find this wrap here. Maybe you even can wrap the foot behind. Just an option if you wanted to try it. Staying right here is great too. And you can take the wrap of the arms or not. If you want the wrap of the arms, bringing the hands out in front and the right arm coming on top, giving yourself this hug. Hands to the shoulders. Start to draw the elbows away from the chest, away from the shoulders. Always an option to find the full eagle wrap. So this is eagle pose here with the wrap of the legs, the wrap of the arms, and balancing if you're wanting to try that. Either way, find somewhere steady to gaze. Couple deep breaths. Hugging in towards the midline, in towards the center of the chest, the heart, the center of the head. Right where the left and right sides of the body meet, the left and right sides of the brain. The left and right sides of the lungs, breathing right into that space in between. Start to let the hands come back to the shoulders if they're lifted, the elbows into the chest. Use the hands. If we're standing, you might come back to seated and use the hands to help pick up the left knee. Take a couple of those circles, just a little mobility in the hip after all that hugging in. Beautiful. And then find your way, feet planted down on the ground. This could be a good time if you want to continue to stay seated. You might find yourself up against a wall, and I'll show you those options. And whether you're coming to standing or not, you could still do this movement. We're going to do that slow stand up. So plant the feet out in front of you, maybe about hips distance apart. The ankles might be pretty much under the knees. You could have the hands on the hips, maybe on the seat of the chair. Start to press the feet firmly into the ground. And as the feet press into the ground, the legs start to really engage and the glutes engage underneath you. And that'll actually give you a little bit of lift. So really squeeze in. And even though the legs aren't touching, the legs are trying to hug in towards each other, just like they did when we were doing those poses, that eagle wrap pose. And you might have the hands on the hips. You might even just take the hands to the sides of the ribs for a moment to help really get the spine up nice and tall, lifting the belly button away from the lap and a little light spaciousness and stretch here on the front of the abdomen. So you could bring the hands back to the hips. Maybe the hands are on the seat of the chair. Keep all that length as you start to angle the body, not coming all the way into a fold, but just start to get a little bit of a fold so that you feel like if you press into the feet a little bit more, and maybe if you wanted to bring the hands out in front, you could have that as a little counterbalance. We're really going to use the strength of the legs to maybe sneak forward so much that you start to hover off the chair. There's just a little light kind of momentum push to help get you off. We're really trying to use the strength. And then you come up to standing. And any piece of that you're doing seated to help build strength is great. We're going to actually come down to sit one more time. So start to sit back, bending the knees, reaching the hips back, checking that the chair is back behind you. Come to lower. Nice. And we'll come up one more time. So now you know where we're going. And if you're staying seated and you're doing this and really active and staying right here for a couple of breaths, that is such good strength building for the legs, the low back. So choose where you want to be. Sit up really tall, maybe the hands out in front, press into the feet, knees hugging towards each other. Reach the hands forward. Press into the feet even more. Reach out. Try to reach the thumbs up high, the crown of the head high. Shift the weight into the heels. Start to lengthen the legs. Come to standing. If you're standing, staying seated if you're seated. If you're staying seated and you have a wall in front of you, you can find your kind of down dog reach arms here. Otherwise, you can be finding it on the back of the chair. So if you're a little bit away from the wall, start to walk the hands up the wall. Start to let the heart come forward. We're looking for length in the spine here. If you're doing this standing, you can come to stand behind the chair, feet hips distance, maybe a little bit wider apart. Hands on the back of the chair and walking the feet back. So the hips are pretty much over the ankles and the chest is starting to come down in between the arms. And you decide if you want to keep the back of the neck nice and lifted, the head in line with the rest of the spine, or if it's okay to let the chin fall into the chest to kind of round in, you can do that, but that can be a little intense at this angle. What you want is to be able to spread the toes, plant the feet firmly down, whether you're seated or standing. Find the weight even between the 2 feet. The feet pressing in, the legs lengthening if you're standing. The hands pressing into something. And if it's the back of the chair, it might be the heel of the hand on the back of the chair and then the fingers engaged and spread really wide here, even though they're not in contact with anything. And then you're pressing into the back of the chair or into the wall, trying to reach the hips away, trying to reach the crown of the head away from the hips, creating space all the way up the spine. And any length in the legs here as well, but that's secondary. We want this length in the spine. Couple of breaths here. And then you could either stay right here, or if you'd prefer to come into a fold, you might walk the hands down the sides of the chair, folding a little bit more, adding a bend of the knees and changing the distance between the feet. Maybe some people have space to bring their hands down. Our standing forward fold. If you're seated, you're taking a seated forward fold. There might be a sway of the head side to side, maybe a sway of the hips, bending the knees. Couple more breaths here. Any amount of fold. Letting the back round more now. Breathing into the back of the lungs, feeling the ribs spread. Beautiful. And if the hands were down on the ground, bringing them back to the chair, walking the hands up the chair or up the wall, making your way to either stand or sit up tall. And then if you're at the wall, you can do this with the foot against the wall. If you're standing, go ahead and bring your right foot up to one of the legs of the chair. Maybe it's if you had a cross beam, that's the right height on the chair, you could use that. And then the left foot is about hips distance away from the right. So maybe out as wide as your chair, and it's just coming back behind you, maybe like 2 feet distance. Literally about 2 feet. Kind of decide what your distance is for you. But the right foot is up either the leg of the chair, up the wall. You could do this on the wall if you don't want to use the chair and you're standing too. Start to bend into the left knee. Start to draw the hips back, lengthening the right leg. And then the chest is coming forward, either towards the wall or the back of the chair. And you're really drawing the right hip back. Maybe you bring the forearms to the back of the chair, the hands to the wall, maybe walking up the wall. I'm going to come out of it here to show against the wall. But looking for a stretch through the back of the right leg. It might be a little bit more in the calf. So this is what it might look like against the wall. My right foot is up the wall. My hands are walking up, just like I was doing in that down dog shape. So take a couple more breaths here. Getting a nice stretch in the back of the right leg. And the more you bend the left knee and really try to draw the hips back and try to draw the right heel forward as the right hip comes back, you'll get more stretch. And you might see if you can press the big toe of the right foot down a little further. It'll have a tendency to be a little lifted for most of us. Take another breath here. Press into the left foot. Start to make your way back up, both legs a little long. You can press into the wall or the chair to draw the right foot away from the wall. And set up for the other side. The left foot coming up, maybe against the wall or the seat of the chair. If you're standing, the right foot stepping back, toes point at an angle up towards the chair, bending into the right knee, dropping the hips back so the hips are heading towards the right heel, pressing into the left big toe, the heart coming forward, that length here. As you start to fold over, either finding somewhere to rest, the forearms on the back of the chair or up the wall. Couple breaths here. I'm just being really careful if you're using the chair, just how the weight is placed so that you're not going to topple the chair by accident or push it out of the way. So there's a lot of weight in the right foot here to help hold you up, stability. And my left toes are actually just very lightly pressed against the chair. A lot of the weight's in the left heel. Couple more breaths here. Soften the shoulders, the jaw. Bring the hands back up. Start to lengthen the legs. Shift the weight really far back into the right foot and draw the left foot in. Okay, and you can do this seated, or we're gonna find gate pose. You might, if you're standing, come to stand on the left side of the chair and bring your left foot up, your left shin, or your right shin. Got my sides all mixed up here. Okay, so either seated on the left side with the left leg out to the side, the toes pointing straight ahead. This is kind of the traditional way we've done it a lot of times, our gate pose. And then you're pressing into the pinky side of the foot, really lifting the knee away from the ground. The right ankle's pretty much right underneath the right knee. And then we'll do some variations there. But just an option if you're standing is to bring the right shin onto the chair and to see what it's like to actually sit on the shin. So you're getting a little bit of a different stretch in the knee. You're getting a stretch in the front of the ankle that's on the chair. And then you're bringing the left foot out to the left side. This is not going to be for everyone to be sitting on the shin like this. So just be really careful there. So you play with the placement of the left foot up and towards the front of your chair or back behind you. You change the distance. If you need to have the left knee bent quite a lot, please do. One thing to pay attention is if you feel like there's a lot of tension or weight on the inside of the left knee, you might want to change exactly where the foot's placed. You might want to try to press even more into the pinky side of the foot, lifting the arch of the foot. And so we'll start here. And you decide if at any point in your sitting on the shin that this becomes way too intense on the knee, the hip, the front of the ankle, then you come out of it and you can come to sit instead. But this can just be like a nice little extra stretch if it's feeling okay for you. If you want, then what you can do is make sure you're up really nice and tall, maybe using your hands alongside the ribs to grow a little taller. Maybe the left hand starts to slide down the left foot. Maybe the right hand sweeps up, getting a side stretch here into the sides of the ribs now. And there's not very much weight of the left hand on the left leg because you want to be really sensitive to the knee. We're looking more for this nice stretch inside of the left leg, outside of the left ankle. This little arm stretch and side stretch in the body is like kind of the bonus, just like with what's happening here if you're sitting on the shin. Take another couple breaths here. If you're leaning, press into the left leg just lightly to help bring yourself up. Shift the weight over onto the right hand to sneak the left foot back in. And then carefully, if you were kind of sitting on that shin, carefully coming out of it, standing back up, you'll probably want to lengthen the right leg, give it a little kick if you were there. If you're seated, all you're going to do is shift the weight over so that now you're hanging off of the right side, planting the right ankle or left ankle underneath the left knee, walking the right foot out to the side. Lengthening the right leg, checking in with your placement. If you're standing, carefully, maybe seeing what it'd be like to sit on the shin on this side. The left knee bends. Sometimes it helps when you're coming into this sitting on the shin to actually take some of the flesh of the calf and rotate it and move it out of the way. And you just check in. How is this on your knee? How is this on this ankle on this side? And maybe the leg goes out to the side. Really press into the pinky side, lift the arch, check in with the knee. You can either stay right here. This can be nice, lots of stretch. Maybe the right hand slides down the right leg, keeping the whole right side of the ribs spinning up. The left hand can help root the hip down, maybe reaching up and overhead, the palm facing down towards the right foot. Couple of breaths here, whichever shape you're taking. If the left hand was lifted up overhead, bring it back to the hip. Press into the right foot, right leg, and the foot. Come all the way back up. Hands find the chair as you wiggle the right foot back in. Use your hands on the chair to help stand back up if you were on the shin, and give the leg a little shake. All right, some stretches for the legs, standing up. We're going to make our way back down. You might take a slow seat. And if you'd prefer to do a couple rounds of half sun salutations from a standing position, you're welcome to stay standing actually. But otherwise, we'll all do this and then you could always come back up. Reach the hands out high to the shoulders, standing in front of your chair if you're there. Otherwise, you're starting to engage, pressing into the feet, engaging the glutes. If you're seated, coming back down. If you wanted to come back up, you can do that and do half sun salutations from standing. We're just going to get a little flow, a little meditation movement before we wrap up. So seated if you'd like. Got a funny angle of my chair here. It's not quite stable when I sat down. So find your nice tall seat. Inhale, sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale, the hands come down through the midline as you fold over the legs. Inhale, hands press into the legs somewhere, whether you're standing or not, lifting the heart forward. And then exhale, round back in. Inhale, press all the way back up, lifting the heart tall. Exhale, settling back in. Inhale, sweeping the arms up. Exhale, hands through the midline, folding over the legs. Inhale, lift the heart. Reach forward, a little mini back bend. Exhale, round the spine. Inhale, press in, sit up nice and tall. Exhale, maybe the hands reach down by the sides. So if you're doing the standing, I'll show you that too. You can continue seated. Inhale, sweeping the arms up. Exhale, folding over the legs, hands through the midline. Inhale, hands press into the legs, lifting heart forward. Exhale, round, forward fold. Inhale, coming all the way back up to standing, rolling the shoulders back. Exhale, arms by the sides. Twice more, whether you're seated or standing. Inhale, sweeping up. Exhale, hands through the center, forward fold. Inhale, lift the heart. Exhale, fold. Inhale, press into the feet. Rising, sitting, standing tall, shoulders roll back. Exhale, arms by the sides. Once more, inhale, sweep up. Exhale, hands through the center, fold, round the spine. Inhale, lengthen the spine, heart comes a little forward. Exhale, let the shoulders drop down, the chin drop in, fold. Inhale, press into the feet, shoulders roll back, sit up tall. Exhale, hands by the sides. Bring the hands back to the heart center and soften the gaze. Maybe close the eyes. Notice if anything feels different for you, physically, maybe mentally, maybe even tap the fingers on the forehead. Just a really light little tap. And emotionally, you might tap your fingers right on the breastbone, the collarbone. You might do that a couple of times. A light tap of a couple of fingers on the forehead. And a tap somewhere on the chest. Tapping the forehead. Tapping the heart. This reminder to integrate everything that you learn mentally up in the forehead, the brain. Let that drop down and sink into the heart. Resting both hands on the heart now, one on top of the other. We'll take one big clearing breath. So a clearing breath, you inhale through the nose, out through the mouth with a ha or a sigh. So big inhale through the nose. Big breath out the mouth. Slight bow of the head into the heart. Thanking yourself for taking this time to move, to breathe, to connect, to think about integrating everything that you learn, letting it sink into the body, sink into the heart, and then taking that out. And as you acting from this place of heart and awareness and connection. You can lift the head, let the hands relax, and slowly open the eyes as you're ready. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you're well and continue to be well. See you soon.